So that's as funky as I'll get out. So I'll do that today and just let people know about that. There's not a lot of research around it. I just found some people online that had actually had the experience of learning to juggle and how that helped their emotional control.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
And of course there are, Tori.
One is a bit early.
That's right. That's good. That means they can.
Yeah. So sorry. So this is just kind of.
It goes down and then I go here and I grab the one there, then I go into the chat. It's like a 5-step process. And then I type in a new message. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I love your work. Pleasure to have you all. You're Tori Adams and Anton, Guinea Incorporated.
I know, we're a well-oiled machine now.
We are. Oh, I've got an idea for you for the next one too, Tori.
Yeah.
Hi, Tori.
Alright, hello everyone, and thanks for jumping on nice and early. Hoping you can all see and hear me okay. Do let me know if there's any issues. We will give everyone a few more minutes to jump on, and then we'll get started hopefully as close to 1 o'clock as we can. As an example, so Tori, showing you from Brisbane.
And I'll tell everyone how I come to find these books when the session starts. But yeah, if you could just take a list of all of those names, and I'll actually send everyone will get at least a, and thank you, Craig. Oh, Craig Pendlebury, I remember Craig from last time.
I know, Craig, yeah.
I'll send all of those names ebooks, Tori, and for one special person that got on early, I'll give them this hard copy from Calm to Chaos.
Okay, go neck of the woods.
That's it. Fantastic, just out in the central Queensland region. Miak from Melbourne. Wow, we're covering a lot of territory today. We really are.
I love it.
Going around Australia.
Absolutely.
Another Toowoomba, where it's probably a bit cold down there back at the moment, is it? In Brisbane.
Awesome. Alright, can we just give everyone a few more minutes to jump on and then we'll get started. We had quite a few people register for this event, so it's very exciting. Lots of friends to join us. Yeah.
So,
always a good one, always.
Everyone will get heaps of value.
Alright, I will get my screen going while we catch up.
Perth, loving the vibe already, Amanda. Go you.
That's what we're after.
We're going to vibe. We're vibing.
So let's make sure that's down. All systems go.
And we are recording this, Tori, aren't we, for Donna?
Yeah.
Great.
That being said, if you have something, a question, any thoughts, feelings you want to share, pop it in the chat. Anton is absolutely great at answering questions as they pop up. So do definitely take advantage of that, as a lot of people already have. So, by way of introduction, my name is Tori. I am our workplace engagement.
On Guinea, everyone, and we work with leaders basically who are under pressure to help them remain in control and calm under pressure. And really that's what this topic today is about. It's about how to remain in emotional control so that you can stay in behavioural control, which is a really, really key element of our lives at the moment, especially after the last couple of years. We're going to really unpack what that looks like and what some of those skills around that look like today.
And cultures and to elders past, present and emerging. So as we go through today, we want to make it nice and interactive session. So we like to use Menti. Menti is a way that you can jump on, answer a few questions that we have. It is all completely anonymous, so feel free to share as much or as little as you like. And a lot of thumbs up already, so that's perfect. If you do need that code again, just let me know and I can pop it back up. But if everyone's ready to rock, we'll jump on to our first question. So first one, we just want to check in. How are we feeling? Are we maybe a little bit apprehensive? Are we excited? Are we curious? We're great. That's a perfect one to start with. From my team, energized. We'd love to see that as well. Curious. That's really exciting, isn't it, Anton?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. I'll let that go through a little bit more.
Good.
Tired. Absolutely. Been a weird old week as well when it comes comes to emotional intelligence, it kind of can be a common thread throughout a lot of cases that we see. You know, people are maybe having a bit of issues with their colleagues and their interactions in that way. Emotional intelligence and really not understanding each other's can be a really underlying reason behind a lot of what we see there. For you, just learn more. That's a great attitude to have. Staying in control of our emotions and behaviours, that's definitely in Anton's wheelhouse. Good mental health, balancing life, I like that as well. Translating EQ from personal to work, learning about your own EI there as well. Lots of really good points here. So I think we'll definitely be able to cover some of these off. So I think this is a good point to just pause.
As an apprentice electrician back in the day, as we say. And, you know, we used a whole lot of hand tools to do that, to do different jobs, and shifting spanners and pliers and side cutters. And one thing that I'll remember about some of the times and some of the people that I worked with back then, it was the early 1990s, so it's an eon ago, was that some of the tradespeople at that time, when they would get angry because something didn't go right, or they bumped their knuckles, or they, you know, stripped a nut, or whatever it was that they were working on, I kid you not, it was, I know right, Peter, total change of work. I think it was a bit dangerous, Peter, because some of these tradespeople, I kid you not, this is no lie, would get so angry that they would throw their tools. I kid you not. And it's one, it's unsafe. Two, it's scary. Now imagine, like, I've been gentle and I didn't want to, you know, emotionally overwhelm you before we start. But imagine I have seen a person throw a hammer because they were angry, because they were aggressive, because they were. When we translate that to 2023, we have a saying for that now. That's called throwing the toys out of the cot, so to speak. But we also know there's a technical word for that, team, and it's called an amygdala hijack. An amygdala hijack. So what's an amygdala hijack? Well, it's interesting. Here's a beautiful little 3D version of the 1.3 kilo lump of grey matter in our brain that uses 20% of the oxygen and 20% of the calories that we put in. Is your amygdala. And your amygdala is that part of your brain that manages your emotions. Now when we have an amygdala hijack, that amygdala takes over, your emotions take over, and you're not actually acting rationally. You're not responding to stimulus, you are reacting to stimulus. Now, thank you, Tori. Now that all happens, can I tell you, team, in a very short amount of time. It happens in 0.12 of a second that we are triggered, let's say, and I love that word that Tori used, we get triggered. Today's session is about helping you with your amygdala hijack, because it happens. And we've got to be really so self-aware when it is we're getting heightened, so that we can regulate that emotional state. Because if we act, if we behave, if we react in a heightened state, generally we don't do our best work. We give ourselves permission sometimes to actually hurt other humans, which is really uncool. And good work, Amanda. Great work. That'll get rid of some of that frustration. And sometimes it might be that, or it might be breathing, or it might be some other tool, or it might be, and I'm going to talk about these later, fidget spinners, you know, for you, if that's your thing that helps you stay in control and focus. Now, before we start, massive shout out. Welcome Suncorp, welcome the EC, great work Tori, and welcome to our EQ session today. So what do we mean by EQ, emotional quotient? You are amazing, and oh no, you'll see, well Anton, you probably tell every group that, no. I have got the script. Thank you. This is why I say you're amazing. Thank you so much for everyone. Look at the contribution, and there was a great comment before earlier, if you didn't hear it, the vibes are good already. And the vibes are good, team, is because people are interested, engaged. You've actually filled out some questions, thank you so much, of what you would like to get out of today ahead of time. So that means you're thinking about it. That's why you're amazing. And now I can I can address those questions and I can talk very specifically to some of the challenges that you're facing. And resilience, it's funny, Tori, because resilience was one of the first things that was mentioned on your Menti. It's one of the, it was the first one that came up here, right? You're in a marriage with me, which is great. And if anyone else out there is a triathlete, please put your hand up. Go the triathletes. We love the triathletes. And of course, in an emergency, I'm sure you all know what to do. The traditional owners, we've got 4, and the longest one is Terribling Bunda. And we've got Garang Garang, we've got Waiyili, and we've got Garang, which is really cool. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give a shout out to anyone that's suffered through or is suffering through a mental health challenge. Isn't it interesting that when we talk about this topic, we cannot avoid the mental health words or mental wellness. And you know, if you are triggered today, which I hope you're not, I am a mental health first aider, though I probably can't help you from afar. The EC is probably here to help. So if you are triggered today, I always give a trigger warning if we're going to talk about these sorts of topics. So please reach out. You're not on your own. Life is a team sport. Hey, Tori?
Absolutely.
Let's cover what people say or do that stimulates, that heightens that emotional arousal in your amygdala. And let's unpack the word called empathy, and let's understand what empathy looks like. See, there are a lot of questions in your preparation and in what you'd like to get out of today that really was around, I'm doing a whole lot of work on my EQ, but my leader isn't. You know, and that's a really big deal when we feel like we're, let's say, doing the lion's share of the lifting from an emotional regulation and control perspective, and there are other people that maybe aren't doing that level of learning, developing, growing, emotional regulating as you are. So I get that. And so let's be empathetic, though, because we can't change other people. We can influence them, and we can influence them by our behaviour or through our behaviour and how well we do from an emotional control or emotional management, emotional quotient perspective. Now, you have got, Tori, I believe, you sent out the workbook. It should be on the invitation. I think you said you were going to put it.
Yeah, so it should be in the calendar invitation, the calendar meeting request.
Thanks, Tori. So everyone's got a copy of that, team. So please, it's not personality. Personality is totally different, and I love Mike Posky's article here, and you could go and find this on the interweb. I don't think I've put the link in the workbook, though. You can go and find it easily enough. Workbook incoming. Give me 2 minutes. Thanks, Tori. Mike Posky really unpacked the difference between personality and what personality does for us and how our personality impacts our lives. And he compared and contrasted that with EQ, how our emotional quotient impacts our lives. And I'd love you to, so let's just, in the chat box, team, what sort of things do you think might make up our personality? What are some of our what are some of your personality traits? What are your big personality traits? If we were to measure your personality traits, what are some of the things that we might measure? What do you think? If we were doing it, we would measure something like your disc profile. So are you dominant? Oh, nice, Laura, straight there. Woot, woot. Introversion versus extroversion. Those two words developed by a great psychologist called Carl Jung. Tolerance, some of us are energetic and engagement and enterprise thinking here at the Guinea group. So thank you for sharing. Like the gregarious, outgoing, calming, fair, caring, humorous, empathetic. Isn't that beautiful? They are such important character traits, absolutely. And some of those actually do lean over into the EQ space, especially the empathy and the compassion. Thank you. Nurturing behaviours. So all of those personality traits are really, really important. Now, here's another one for you in there, is IQ. Intelligence quotient. How smart are you? That's part of your character. And some of that is nature and nurture. You know, when I think about IQ, I think about the history of IQ, and I think about the measurement of IQ, and I think that we can very quickly and easily measure IQ if you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Now, EQ we can also measure. Until recently we couldn't, and now we can. We can actually give you a measure of your emotional quotient. which is really, really cool. Because with measurement tools comes improvement opportunities. But what I love about the work Mike Posky did was he said that our personality only gets us so far. It's EQ that really helps us achieve what we want. With, and did a lot of work around emotional intelligence, was Daniel Goleman. Just put in the chat box, has anyone heard of Daniel Goleman and Daniel Goleman's work? Please, team. This is the way that Daniel Goleman put that model together. Now, Daniel Goleman, no, I haven't heard it. Great, a couple of no's. Thanks, Leanne. Thanks, Norella. Daniel Goleman picked up some research from around the 80s and picked up a research report, no, a few no's there, thanks Donna, and heard these two words put together, emotional intelligence. And Daniel Goleman said, well, what's all that about and how does that work? Sure have, great work, thanks Kirsten. Daniel Goleman said, he said, look, it may not be 80% and that doesn't matter, but it is a high number. A large percent of your success in life and in relationships will be determined by how aware you are of your own emotions and when they're changing and when they're triggered. How well you're able to manage them, regulate them. Socially, how aware you are of other people's emotional states. There's a challenge for you. How do you look at another human and understand the experience that they're having with you? That's a skill. Is there someone we can go to measure EQ for ourselves? Absolutely. Tori, maybe take that if you could please, just as an action for you and I, because you help others manage their emotions. There are arrows going around this matrix. Here's the Anton Guinea spin on this team. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4. Self. Management. Others. Awareness. Others. Management. Now, I've put all of that, and the reason that I drew it in the matrix first, we'll send the link in the wrap-up email. The reason that I drew it like that first, team, is because in the workbook, and I actually asked Tori when we were setting this session up, team, is it okay to use something, so symbolic? Because we've got an emotional intelligence skill, doesn't mean that we love everyone or that everyone loves us. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say that symbolically, when you have an emotional intelligence or a high emotional intelligence, you actually do feel differently. You experience life differently. And even though I put my hand on my heart, it's interesting, right? Because as I talked about before, our emotions aren't driven by our heart, they're driven by this tiny bit of our brain called our limbic system. Now, let's get into some detail. If you looked at this side of the model, you'll see there how to be a good human. If you looked at the other side, which is where a few people have joined the session from and trying to get some information around, and there's a few more O's, thanks Devon and thanks Amanda. How do I deal with difficult personalities? How do I keep it together when there are other humans out there that might be triggering, or there's situations that might be triggering? I got a question in growth in emotional intelligence and refuses to grow in their own emotional intelligence. See, these are big questions, team, and these are out here. These are out, how do we deal with other humans that may not be on the same level as we are when it comes to emotional intelligence? Let's unpack each part of this. Let's go to the self-awareness piece first. Now, it is skill number one. It is absolutely an imperative that we can name our emotional state. Now, this is what I love about I'm autistic. Thank you for being so honest. So no emotion-based examples or non-emotion based examples would be useful. So I'll give you some non-emotion based examples for this. But what I want to talk about very, very quickly is this self-awareness piece that's on the slide. But at the same time, and I want to call this out, some people really struggle. There is a condition, not a disorder, a condition. So I need to log out. Norella, thanks for joining us. So I need to log out too. Yep, Norella. There is a condition called alexithymia. Now, alexithymics can't put a name to their emotional state, right? They really struggle to do that. 10% of the planet are alexithymics. So some of you, there might be 1 in 10 on this call who go, Anton, I really struggle we're talking about how I feel. To really look inside and go, what's my emotional state? Having done this training with hundreds, probably thousands of people now, I reframe the question because I know that's a hard question. And if this is a question that you struggle with, what's my emotional state? How do I feel? All I want you to ask yourself is, what am I experiencing? What am I, alexithymia, thank you Felicity. Did I get the spelling right? I hope I did. What am I experiencing right now? Is it joy? Is it, am I just lethargic? You know, is that an emotional state? Doesn't matter. It's about being aware enough of what you're experiencing so that you can put a word to it. This is about self-talk. This is about knowing your body well enough so that you can say, this is my experience. 3 positive emotions to 1 negative, so it's a 3-to-1 ratio. The likelihood is you are in a good mental place, that your emotional state is positive. The 3-to-1 rule. That's why, and understand, Amy, thanks for coming. That's why it's so important to really understand where your emotion is or where your experience is in the moment, right? Now, that's tip number 1. We won't do this again, even though we've got a star there. So in the chat box, we've already done it, so I'm going to move past that. You'll see in your workbook there is an action for that. Let's jump to the next action though. Let's jump to regulating our emotion, because this is what you've all come for. The first one, so how I manage that self-management, which is around self-control, absolutely. And trustworthiness. Trust yourself not to have an amygdala hijack like those tradespeople did that I used to work with, right? Or, who in here, just a quick show of hands, who in here drove to work this morning in Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, and who might have had an interesting driver? Regulate or actually pin it down to 1? If you can pin your experience or your emotional state down to 1 word, Courtney, even better. It's a challenge to do that, though I'd encourage you to try. Hobart, every day. Lol, pretty busy down there. Cool. Annoyed. How were you on the way to work? Annoyed. Leanne, I get it. I find it hard to name my mood because it's something different in relation to different things. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I'm happy about X, but upset about Y, comma, because. Oh, beautiful. Love that word, Felicity. Thank you so much. This is emotional quotient 101. This is where the rubber hits the road. I feel like, actually I won't bring the flip chart back, I'll do it on the slide. I feel like if we can put a name to our emotional state, and as soon as we feel like we're getting heightened, we can regulate that, we can manage it, and we can bring ourselves down through a whole range of ways and tools, and using a whole range of tools, which I'll share with you in a minute. You can trust yourself to be in control when you need to be, and you can trust yourself not to lose it with another human being and not to give yourself permission to be a really uncool human. So that then you have to go back and apologise and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I was just annoyed. The cat ate my homework. See, we use excuses, or we use our emotional state as an excuse sometimes for how we behave, which is really uncool. Wouldn't it be nicer if I can give you some skills now, right now, so that you can experience emotional control? Let me give you some skills. Now, some of you are going to go, Anton, too simple, too easy. And I'm going to go, great. Keep working on them if you think they're too simple and too easy. And the challenge is sometimes they're too simple and too easy, so you don't do them. Now, any parents in the room? Any parents out there who've got these little Benry, obviously? Yep, thanks Kathleen. You had 4! Go Joe! And all of those little bundles of joy have this gag reflex. My teenagers gag too. They probably are just about out at drinking age. Yep, Kristen, Shelley. That gag reflex, can I tell you something? Just lean in, just lean in, just lean in. That's the only breathing training you ever got. True story. That was it. That's where your breathing training stopped, Tori. It's like, unless you, 3 teens, grown but still the same. My lovely wife said she's got 3 kids in the house, 3 boys. One of them's 50. Now,
I can imagine.
If you were here before this session, and my videographer will give us a nod, Peter, just give it, did I breathe before this session?
Yep.
Yep. I would never do a session. And Peter said, are you nervous? I said, no. Well, yes, I am, because I'm always nervous before sessions. But I breathe, 3 deep breaths. Lol, set up for success in life then. Yeah. Breathe. As soon as your emotional state changes for the worse, breathe. I'm going to tell you what happens, team. This is what's going on in your psyche. We have stimulus. You see something like, and imagine the symbology for hammer, right? It's hit, it's hard, it's nearly hurt. Stimulus. That might be a positive stimulus, or it might be triggering stimulus. I've been muted, someone muted me. Triggers negative stimulus. Stimulus is just normal stimulus. One of two things is going to happen. Your amygdala is going to fire. Now can I tell you, your amygdala will fire in 0.12 of a second. True story. Studies have now shown, we can measure it now. Your emotions will fire in 0.12 of a second. Now, that's it's anger, would you believe? Because it's like, what just happened? That all happens in 0.12 of a second. Now, when you do that, you go straight into react mode. Now this, and it might not be another driver. It might be mansplaining. It might be negative comments about your behaviour. I know. Anger comes from fear. It does. Oh, Yoda said that, the great business philosopher. Yoda. Yeah. Any advice, manage a leader who refuses to see my growth? So there's a whole range of things, team. What's going to happen next, especially if it's one-on-one? What's this person thinking? What's going to happen? Am I going to be blamed? And then it's like, then you come out fighting. If you give yourself 1 second, 1 second is all it takes. Think before you speak. Beautiful, Denicia. If you give yourself 1 second, you will get into respond mode, not react mode. That's all it takes. It literally takes the difference. Act negatively. You are not being proactive in your management of your emotional state. You're letting your emotions drive you. It's called an amygdala hijack. And that just goes back to that start of the session where all of a sudden, you know, the story that I used was a tradesman throwing their tools. And I just wonder if anyone on here has experienced people in their life that do react. Great question, thank you. So a reaction, Courtney, is based on negative emotion. A response is in control. And that's sort of the way that we talk about it, and EI and EQ talk about it. Hope that helps. Now, you've got 1 second. You've seriously got a second. Here's the other thing. Pause. Let's diversity if that's correct. And they can, yes, because they struggle over on that side of the model if the model was still up. And so that's why neurodiverse people have things like fidget spinners. The challenge, particularly say, let's say autism or the ASD, which is a disorder in the DSM-5. Autism means that you can't differentiate between an internal feeling and emotion and an external feeling or like a physical stimulus. People struggle with the whole, is this internal or external? And it's really difficult for people with ASD. It's neurological, right? That's why neurodiverse people, tick, or they, my cameraman we had a great conversation before this, my camera person, Peter, is neurodivergent, and Peter is always tapping his feet, he's always moving. And I said, why do you do that? Because I have to feel something. I've got to feel something. I need to be able to know that there's stimulus, and you don't break your fidget spinners is the secret when you're doing these sessions. Diverse people, so thank you so much, Judith, for asking. I did some research for you, Judith, once I got these questions. Here's what I found. When it comes to managing our triggers and regulating our emotional state, whether it's our leader, whether it's a driver that's cut us off, yes, a team member reacting to feedback. Here's something that I want you to try. I wonder whether, and what we know about juggling is that juggling actually turns on your brain. So juggling connects the left and the right hemispheres of your brain. Which as soon as I learnt that, I went and bought juggling balls. Now we give them away as part of our sessions. I juggle I never leave home without juggling balls. These are my hacky sacks, and they're on my desk 24/7. I cannot stress to you more, Anton, I didn't know your hidden talent. Hey, thanks, Tori Adam. Absolutely. Probably in the last couple of years, Tori, once I found out that it stimulates thinking. See, what happens is work on connecting. Yes. You connect your brain, right? Because the more you've got neuronal connections across what we call the corpus callosum, the clearer you think. How do you think more clearly? Oxygenate. I used to be a great juggler until I needed glasses. Yeah, that's right. You probably need to be able to see them. Thanks for sharing, Kim. But let me give you some really specific tips. Please breathe. Please learn to breathe. And it's as simple as this. In, hold, out. We won't do it now. In, hold, out. Bit like engage your brain before you speak. That's what I want you to do. If you walked away today with on this slide, engage brain before responding, you'll be okay. But here's the challenge, Judith. It's hard for some people. It's a really difficult thing to do, to engage your brain before you speak, especially when your emotions get out of control. Now, here's the best way that I've ever found to engage your brain before you speak. Know what your triggers are and be prepared for them before they even show up. Don't thank me now. You've got a great you've got a great workbook there that's got some notes in it. Now, I'm going to ask you a really important question now. Please put in the chat box, team. What are your triggers? If you're willing to be that vulnerable, and I hope you are. Or, I disagree. I disagree. My videographer's laughing here. You know, when I say those, or people yelling, being ignored, being spoken over the top of, like these are real triggers, right? Being told I'm wrong. I know. External overstimulation for the neurodiverse, Courtney, I'm with you if that is something for you. People being, untruthful, stretching it, yelling, arrogance. Oh, I know more than you. Who are you? You know, I'm condescending. And here's something that people do. I love this body language. You know, this whole, when you might be a bit triggered and people go, calm down. or, how's that work out for you? Aggressive or arrogant? Confrontation. We now know that from body language experts like people like Alan Pease, that this, and some neuropsychs actually, Alan Parker, this is some of the worst body languaging you can ever do. Kids tantrums. Yeah, I know. This is some of the worst body language, because what are you doing? You're putting people down. It's a yucky bit of body, chewing noises. Oh, I know, that's the thing. Gossips. Making every excuse and not having any self-awareness. I know, right? Chewing noises. Now, team, I want you to write down and see those things there. Most of them, they struggle with insecurity. Here are some power thoughts. Here are some, call them affirmations. Whenever you're struggling, say this to yourself. I can't remember who it was. I've lost the thread. I believe in my abilities and my strengths. I accomplish what I set out to do in life. I need that book. Absolutely, Amanda. Hey, Kmart, if you were on earlier today, Amanda, thank you for asking. The universe provides. Tori, if you were on, and even if you weren't, maybe Amanda's the one. I feel left alone lately. Oh, stay strong, Miak. I have faith in myself and my abilities. My strengths and talents will help me realise my dream. Imagine if you read that to yourself every morning. Power thoughts. This is about self-development. This is about doing the work, right? Now get this page here. This is interesting. You cannot breathe deeply and worry at the same time. Breathe. Let the worry go. Breathe. Allow the love and the intuition in. Isn't that a great page? There's so much science. 88, it's called Calm the Chaos. Sorry, Calm to Chaos. Calm to Chaos. Thank you, team. It's such a beautiful little book. I haven't read it yet. I just went and got, I just done a little flick through. And books are getting less and less wordy these days. They get more pictury these days, which is cool. So Tori's highlighted 3 questions. Is gender diversity part of emotional intelligence? Just lean in. Lean in. Yep. Why? Because how do I recover after reacting to trigger? Reframe the situation is the short answer. After a trigger and after a really tough interpersonal experience, team, you'll do one or two things. You will ruminate, which means negative self-talk. The stats now say that we ruminate for up to 48 or 72 hours after something happens. And a lot of it's interpersonal. We don't get out of rumination until we can reframe. Put a different frame around it. Yes, I would agree, Amanda. Right. Yeah, good. Welcome to being human, Amanda. This is one for you, Marion. Reframe. Now, the way that you reframe, let me really give you this clearly. What did I learn, and what would I do differently next time? That's such a better question to ask yourself than, why am I adept with the wrong answers? One saying that resonates: when a person tells you that you hurt them, you don't decide that you didn't. It's actually none of your business until they tell you, right? Thanks, Devon. Love your work. With some beautiful comments today. Some really, really high EQ comments today. Team, as we finish, please keep putting them in there. Gender diversity is because there's languaging around it, and languaging is a trigger, and you can offend someone really, really quickly. And yes, we should not try to offend anyone in 2023. I think it's okay. I love PC. That's another conversation. How can it be fostered and developed in a person who identifies as neurodiverse? Find what works for you. You might have another tip, trick, skill. Whatever works. If it's juggling, do that every day. If it's fidgeting, get a fidget spinner. If it's breathing, work on your internal languaging. And no emotion-based example. So I hope whoever my neurodivergent listener today is, hopefully I've given you something else as a tip, as a trick that you could use. Now, let's finish this session off, team. We always finish with a story here at Suncorp EC and the Guinea Group Incorporated. The actions. Here's the actions. I haven't put these in the workbook because they're a late edition, but I thought, how can I sum this up for you? That's the slide. That's the from somewhere, Judith. This is the process. Name your state. Change your state. Don't be triggering to other human, and think fast, talk slow. Empathy. Empathy, empathy, empathy. Now, I love this story, and the tide had gone out significantly, and it was a bit like a mini tsunami. And as the water receded off the beach, it left a whole lot of starfish on the beach. And the old man on his morning walk, thank you for your time, I need to jump off. Brittany, you're a legend, thanks for staying. As the old man walked up the beach, he saw a lady up in the distance, a young lady. And she looked like she was dancing. She looked like she was doing this dancing motion. When the old man got closer to the lady, he saw that she wasn't dancing. She was picking up starfish, and she was throwing the starfish back into the ocean. Now there was miles and miles of starfish. The old man said to the young lady, "Why are you doing that? Why are you picking one up at a time and throwing them into the ocean? Because you will not make a difference." And the young lady said, as she picked up another starfish and threw it in the water, "I did for that one. I made a difference for that one." Two messages as I finish off today. First message is this, that EQ makes a difference for people around you, one person at a time. I want to share with you very quickly an example from the Suncorp organisation, where Suncorp got feedback about a Suncorp employee. I'm going to read this while I de-identify it. This is the most impactful story about having emotional control and, more specifically, empathy, which is what we've talked about on that right side. This was an insurance assessor talking about a Suncorp staff member. At every point I felt that Suncorp employee was on the client side and advocating for them. This ensured that the correct process was followed and all reports were completed in a timely manner. And I believe this resulted in a quicker, fully informed outcome that was fair to the client. Now, this is after apparently a long, drawn-out process. The Suncorp employee, listen to this word, was very empathetic, replied quickly to all correspondence and helped move things along. This is someone else talking about your Suncorp employee. I was very impressed by the level of support offered. I've not seen this level of support in any other insurance company I have assisted our clients with. What that insurance assessor was trying to say was that employee, and thank you for coming, it is right on time, we're 1:59, 1 minute from finishing. Thank you so much, team. I'm going to leave you with that Suncorp employee changed the life of one human, made a difference for that human by being empathetic. And Amanda, you are amazing. Thank you so much. And the EC is outstanding. And if you need to reach out to the EC, please do that. Great session. Thank you so much. Lisa, thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate that. Oh, Joe, Cara. Gladstone is great. It is. Kirsten, one of my favourite presenters. Back at you, Kirsten. One of my favourite chat boxes. And I can't really thank you enough for having me and sharing me.
You're always a hit. And yeah, I think obviously everyone's gotten a lot of value out of it. I think there's definitely something in there that no matter what stage or what your relationship to emotional intelligence is, there's definitely...
To actually call that out. Geez, you're amazing. You've got some amazing humans at Suncorp.
We do, we're very lucky.
All right, team.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
And it looks like... Bye-bye. And looks like Kim's got a gift there. Go, Kim. And Kim, thank you. Thanks, Tori. We'll catch you at our... When is our next session, Tori? We're on again soon too, right?
Too sure. The year is flying by already. I can't deal.
Was it August this year we were going to do again? I can't remember. Anyway, we'll work it out. I think we've got another session.